Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the 8-Bit Adventures Podcast. We're here bringing you the latest and greatest geeky news of the week. I'm your host, Sean Hayes, and with me is my wonderful co-host, as always, Courtney Bolin.
Hey, everybody!
So we have, a little bit of light news this week. It's mostly, weird news.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the stuff is just surrounding the bizarreness surrounding the Apple Epic lawsuit.
Yeah.
And the spring, not usually a great time for
No, right
news.
now everybody's waiting for E3 stuff to be able to make new announcements, so everyone's kind of holding off and perfecting their announcements for those things.
Yeah. Which, as we have said, it is happening this year. It's going to be a digital event, but, it is happening. So, and there will be announcements there. People are participating in it. They're not all scattering to the four winds to do their own announcements. So, yeah. And, at some point, the Ravenloft book will come out, and that'll be a big thing that we do, I'm sure.
Yep.
I don't have the release date written down. I don't remember when it releases. Oh, next week, apparently.
I don't have that off the top of my head.
Supposedly it is next week.
May 18th. Yeah.
Oh, my microphone was turned down a bit. Okay.
Yeah, that is next Tuesday.
All right. Well, I'll pre-order it on the old D&D Beyond.
Yeah.
So, if it's next week, we'll talk about it next week. Then we'll do a little review of just how horrifying it truly is.
I was gonna say, so just we're gonna I wish we had a counter that I could be in control of how many times Courtney's freaked out by this book. Because that number's gonna be pretty high. Because as we talked about last week, Courtney doesn't really like horror that much. So
yeah. Sorry, I'm having to adjust audio levels on the fly.
Hey, it wouldn't be an 8-bit show if we weren't.
What is going on?
Yeah, get a whiteboard, start making a tally. But
yeah, sorry, my microphone's picking up something, and I don't quite know what it's picking up. It's just some kind of low-level background noise. I'm sorry about that, folks. So what we're going to do... Yeah, I really don't know.
It's being funky.
Huh. Weird.
Yeah.
Weird.
Funky.
But just in case, I'm going to bust out the... I hear meows.
Headphones. Yeah.
We're gonna put the headphones in. I hate wearing the headphones, but nothing I can do about it.
Sometimes they are necessary.
Yeah, I'm seeing on my end some very low level feedback.
Technology, people. Technology.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's supposed to make our lives easier, isn't it?
In
theory.
All right. So anyway, why don't we get right into our quickfire news then?
Yes.
Before anything else goes wrong. All right. So first up, Venom 2. We got a trailer for it. It is called Venom: There Be Carnage. So basically, the main villain is going to be Carnage. Who, for those that don't know, so Venom is sort of a Spider-Man villain turned anti-hero, sometimes anti-hero, sometimes villain. He's like an alien symbiote that binds to a human. And in the film Venom, like feeds on a specific I don't know if it's a protein or just a chemical or enzyme that is found in certain foods and human brains. And so I guess the deal he works out with Eddie Brock, who's like basically the primary host in a lot of the comics and everything, is Venom doesn't feed on his brain and his organs. Basically, if he can supply him chocolate, which is like the primary food that you can find this like chemical in. So he just like eats a ton of chocolate. And so that comes up a bunch in like the trailer as like funny moments. They kind of put a lot of like comedy into this trailer and make it like the whole idea of Carnage is like he's this chaotic, violent, murderous offspring of Venom. So like it's gonna like in theory should be a dark, probably bloody movie.
Yeah, that sounds pretty dark.
But it's the fact that like they've kind of let Marvel, because it is Sony, but like there's that element of Marvel humor in it that you saw with like Deadpool and a lot of the MCU stuff.
Is it like the Deadpool ones where they actually made like rom-com looking Deadpool posters, and I think they did a trailer too?
No, it's just there's just an element of comedy there. So like he's like walking through the bodega or whatever, the bodega owner, you know, says like, "Oh, hi Eddie," and you know he says hi, and then it's like, "Hi Venom," and Venom, you know says hello. Yep. Venom gets into an argument when like the shipment of chocolate doesn't show up.
Yeah, because it's a bodega owner. Of course they're not fazed by that.
Yeah. So, you know, also in the trailer, it shows Venom cooking breakfast for Eddie. And like absolutely making a mess everywhere, but like basically making pancakes, eggs, like and all this other stuff and everything. But it's like, you know, tendrils like coming out and like, you know, grabbing onto cookware and kitchen gadgets and like utensils and stuff, and like, you know, stirring things and whipping things about and everything. So yeah, like especially since the first movie, the trailers were really playing up like the like making it like a dark horror film. When from what I understand, it was actually like kind of funny. I don't believe we have a new rating yet. I can't remember if the first one was rated R. My guess would be, I mean, it would make sense if it was rated R for Carnage, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was still PG-13 because Sony. Like if it was Fox that had the rights, like this would be R.
Oh yeah.
Like because they wouldn't be afraid to do it. But my guess is it'll probably be PG-13. But who knows? I mean, maybe Sony will be willing to take the chance. And there were also some little Spider-Man cameos as well. I don't think we'll see Spider-Man in the film, but it's just like alluding to Spider. So like I guess the Daily Bugle shows up, you know, and they talk about like, the spider's not going to come here to save you. It's like somebody's like smashing a like a regular spider with the newspaper kind of a thing. So yeah.
Fun.
Yeah. Courtney, do you want to take the next one?
Yeah, next up, there is going to be 2020 Olympics are going to be partially broadcast on Twitch through a deal with NBC. Now, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
This is Summer Olympics that we were supposed to have last year, but
so the Summer Olympics
canceled.
were supposed to happen in 2020, but because of the pandemic, they made an previously unprecedented move of pushing it to 2021. So it's still in Tokyo. It's still happening, everything. There's going to be all sorts of protocols and stuff. So it is not I want to clarify, it is not the full broadcast.
Okay.
So you're still gonna have to have a cable subscription or NBC subscription or whatever in order to view like the events and stuff. This is gonna be like interviews. So one of the things that I was kind of on the fence of or whatever is they're gonna have basically like esport commentators do commentary on the Olympic, or like Twitch personalities do commentary on the Olympics. So I'm kind of like,
That's gonna get
there are some
interesting.
people that, you know, that are big on Twitch that like, yeah, sure, I would watch a stream of them basically watching the Olympics and giving commentary for it. Most of them, no, I don't want to have them anywhere near my sports commentary. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm
But yeah, so it's going to be ancillary, and they might have like clips and
like results and stuff, but
yeah,
not.
results, highlight reels and things like that. You're not going to get the full broadcast. Now, I would also say
But
Twitch would be a great place to show like the stuff that usually doesn't make it to cable, or that you have to have like ESPN 8 or whatever,
yeah,
however many ESPNs they have. Like,
I
put
don't
it on
know. I
Twitch.
have ESPN Plus, so
There's a
I'm
community
actually
for
intrigued to see
everybody on
what will
Twitch.
be available to be streamed on that this summer. I don't know. I'm really partial to like, cool, Summer Olympics, fine.
You mean you're impartial?
Yes, impartial. I mean, I like the Winter Olympics, and my favorite sport to watch is the biathlon.
Really?
Because
I mean,
yeah,
curling's much better.
I
Curling's
greatly
so much
enjoy
more active.
curling. But when you combine cross country skiing and shooting, I
Eh,
love it.
eh,
I love it. Curling
eh.
is like right up there though. But yeah, I'm much more partial to the Winter Olympics, but I do know most people greatly enjoy the Summer Olympics more. So, I
Um,
don't know.
yeah, I mean, because like for example, like Twitch, sailing would be great, like a great event, because
Mhm.
like that never makes it because number one, a race in that takes such a long time.
Yeah.
Um, just because like that's the nature of the sport, is like it takes a while to do like a full circuit.
Yeah,
Um,
regattas take a while.
regattas
You
take a
know.
while. Uh,
So,
but
yeah.
I mean that would be an ideal one. Like because it takes a while, and you know nowadays you could get drone footage and have it be live streamed from drone footage,
That would be cool and greatly wonderful for socially distancing.
right?
Like, nah, dude, we're just gonna fly this drone up there and just like watch everybody. Every once in a while, we'll probably like bring it to a certain spot and like have whoever talk to it real quick.
Yeah.
Like,
And if you get
that's
one that can
amazing.
do sort of like a
That'll,
telephoto lens, you don't
yeah,
have to get that close, because there is the concern of like that in order to get really cool like action shots and stuff, you would have to get too close to the boat, and if something like if they like come about pretty quick or whatever, like boom, you know, there goes your drone. Because these are, you know, probably like 30-ish foot plus vessels,
yeah,
maybe 40-foot vessels,
yeah,
and that's
yeah.
probably on the smaller end, because they're on the ocean. Uh, but
Yeah, but
yeah,
I think yeah, seeing some of those because you know what? I bet there's some summer sports things that I have never even seen because I don't know that they existed.
oh for sure, especially for um, when broadcast on American networks, is
Hmm.
the United States tends to broadcast stuff that it meddles in, you know,
Which
or
is
the big
fair.
ones, you know, track and field, swimming, gymnastics, like though, you know, basketball, those are the big ones. Soccer, those are kind of
Gymnastics is about the only part of the Summer Olympics that I love.
um, diving, but diving's usually put as like ancillary to swimming. Um,
Hmm. Yeah,
so
lots
yeah,
of track and field stuff. I don't, I just, I've never paid enough attention to the Olympics. I'm not even gonna lie. It's in my growing up life, I didn't have cable. And not
yeah,
too much of it was ever really shown on. network like 6, 8, 10, 13 when I was growing up. And
That's
so
weird
like
because it's on one of the major networks.
yes, but the times when I was allowed to watch television
Ah,
growing
okay.
up,
All right.
yeah. I was, yes, it's the times that I was allowed to watch television
Okay.
because, couldn't watch it until my chores and homework and dinner were done and stuff like that. So by that time, it was nightly news.
I mean, well, it is now turned into a thing where it's just on like 24/7.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But I'm also
But,
thinking,
late 90s, early 2000s in rural Maine.
I mean, we had the Atlanta games, so there was one that was Eastern time. I'm also thinking like the time differential.
Yeah, because they all
Like
get shown
when you
live
get one that's
too.
like over in Europe, by the time it's like prime time, there's it's all highlights and stuff, so they're probably
Yeah.
condensing it down. But like, yeah, no, I remember it being on like all the time for the Atlanta games. And then they made a big deal about Izzy and everything, and all puff pieces about this mascot that like nobody really cared for. Uh, so, but yeah, no, I mean, so that'll be a thing. We'll see what comes
I mean,
of
I
it.
was 5 when the Atlanta Olympics happened.
Yep.
So,
I come from a family of athletes, so the Olympics were very big.
yes. That is much more
Yeah.
much more known.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Courtney, which of our
But
next news topics do you wanna take?
I'm gonna talk about Sabec. Is it Sabec or Sabec?
I would assume Sabec.
Yes. So Sabec is releasing a calculator app on the Switch for $10.
Well, not released. It's
Oh,
already
yes.
here.
It says releases. Yes. Yeah, that's why $10? Is it like a super fancy graphing calculator?
It is not. It also looks suspiciously a lot like the pre iOS 7 calculator app, to the point
Like
that like
I have a calculator on my phone for free.
if Apple really wanted to, there's
Oh, I really
possibly
messed
some
up my camera.
argument for trade dress. Like it looks that
Mm-hmm.
close to the iOS. Chances are they probably worked on a calculator app for iOS and then just like decided to port it over to Switch. But yes,
Yeah.
the fact that it is $10.
And like I would legitimately understand if it was like I would understand up to $20 if it was like a TI 84 level of graphing calculator.
but
Like,
but on the Switch, Courtney,
yeah, I'm not judging how people want to do their math
no,
calculations.
that's what phones
I'm
are
not
for.
understanding it. I don't understand it at all. Why you'd want that on the Switch, but I could understand certain situations in certain, people who work in certain fields or certain people who do certain things. I can understand why you might want it on your Switch. That being said, I don't I can't I can imagine that there must be some people who this will be intriguing to. Um
I mean, for me,
but
it kind of perfectly illustrates. It is one thing to take like a really good mobile experience and like polish it up to port it onto a console. Um, it's another thing to take something that is like primarily designed to be just like a mobile app or whatever, and then just like lazily shoveling it off to consoles, and then charging a premium price for it when it was likely free.
the premium price tag is something that I don't understand. Something that did just pop into my head as a reason why somebody may want to benefit from this is individuals who, because my screen for my phone is not, let's turn this phone off so it doesn't. My screen for my phone is not that big. If I have a base calculator, it's only this area of my screen that I can use. I could imagine that individuals maybe who live with autism It's a bigger screen on the Switch. I don't know what the setup looks like on it, but that might be something that within their focus and their extreme, hyperfixation, if it's something on the Switch and it can help them to get them to do their homework or be able to work better in school or something like that, as opposed to having to work with a keyboard, calculator, keypad, or having to work with the keypad that's smaller on your phone. Again, I don't know what it looks like on the Switch, but that is one way and one reason and one rationale that I can see for this being ported over onto the Switch. I still do not believe in the $10 price tag for a calculator, though. That does not have graphing capabilities.
I don't see anybody buying this except as a meme or a gag.
Yes. But that
iPads
is
are a
one
thing.
situation where I can see a slightly bigger screen. And again, if somebody has a hyperfixation with using their Switch, because you can get all sorts of other different helpful things on your Switch, or just other like free games and stuff that are already on like your phones and stuff.
I was gonna say, because the free stuff that you can get on Switch are primarily microtransaction games, and there aren't that many. It's far more like having an iPad would also provide all of the same stuff. Likely have an iPad already suited for this kind of a thing where it may be free, or an iPad has the calculator built in. You don't have to spend the $10 on it. Again, this is just it's weird. Whole bunch of different websites are talking about it. Just like, who does this?
Do I personally feel that it is useful? No. Is there somebody out there, at least I'm sure in this world, this vast blue marble that we live on, that there will be somebody that this helps?
I'm going to disagree on that one.
Just
because I think there's already going to be there's already better avenues for it. I'm not disputing that they'll make money on it.
No, I'm not even saying is there going to be better avenues
because I think there will be people who get this as a
one person out of, I'm even going to round down and say 5 billion. You cut out the top half of the like the top and very bottom of the population that can't use this technology or won't use this technology. One person is all I can think of. But I don't understand. I would understand the calculator app.
Here's the thing. It's free understand it on computers, on phones, on iPads, on other tablets, on Galaxy Fire tablets or whatever. And here's the other thing: you are far more likely to have a phone or even a laptop if you're in a work setting than you are to have your Switch on you 24/7. And again, it's all free.
Am I saying it's like probable? No.
I my take, Courtney, is it's just so improbable that I'm gonna say that it's not helpful. It's also I don't know how buried in the eShop it is, because the eShop is a nightmare to navigate. So this may be just an editor at one website was bored one day and decided to go scrolling through the eShop looking for bizarre stuff that mobile developers push to consoles, and they found this. Like, that's the other thing, is you have to find it too.
Again, I don't understand the $10 if it doesn't have graphing. Like
it's because they think somebody will pay $10 for it. That's really what it boils down to.
Even the Elon Musks of the world that have more money than they know what to do with.
I don't want to talk about Elon Musk. Even passing. Even
those people who, to them $10 is like a nickel. Is $10 might as well be free for them. Even they're not gonna utilize this.
No, because they're going to pull out their phone and say, I have it for free on my phone.
Yeah. Also,
that's what I mean. Is
Google does do graphing. if you type in
Yeah.
a graphing thing, like it'll plot it for you.
Yeah.
Google is great.
That's what I'm saying. It's there's far better options out there that are free, and therefore that this is not helpful.
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
I'm trying to be optimistic about it, but I also just I can't.
Nope. Haha.
No, Google is great.
All right.
And
So further in the line of bizarre gaming news. Basically, itch.io, which is known for being like a platform for game developers that they can push stuff out to. And not just like for like video game development, but like computer games. I've seen tabletop games, developers and stuff push stuff out there. Is now available on the Epic Games Store, which is already kind of weird because now it's a storefront within a storefront. That has become the crux of the Apple versus Epic case. Because basically the justification is Epic wants to be allowed to, from what I understand, as have its own storefront on iOS. And the idea being that like the App Store is kind of monopolistic, because like you can't have any other storefront on iOS. Like unless you jailbreak your phone and sideload it, kind of a thing, which of course is illegal and all that sort of stuff. So Apple is attesting that it won't allow the Epic Games Store to come back and be on its own App Store, because of a lack of quality control, and pointing out the types of games that are available on itch.io, and that Epic's not policing that. It's all convoluted. And basically what it boils down to is Apple saying inappropriate material is available on itch.io. Doesn't matter if Epic doesn't own them. By allowing them onto their storefront, they're asking us to allow it onto our storefront, and we don't allow it, so we're going to say no. Yeah, it is. It's what are they called? The stacking, the nesting dolls.
The Russian nesting dolls?
Yeah, it's kind of like that. Of a storefront within a storefront within a storefront. But Epic wants to do this so that they don't have to pay a cut to Apple, basically. This is still at the crux of that whole issue, like that we discussed like way back when.
I mean,
when Apple
blame
pulled Fortnite.
Epic for not wanting to, but it's, I don't know. Apple is so exclusive everything.
Yeah.
Like I am an Android person through and through, so.
This is also a case where they spent 10 minutes as part of building the case in court, had executives from Epic identifying game consoles. So like holding up a PS5, could you please identify this game console? And like holding up an Xbox Series X or whatever. Like, can you please identify this console? And Nintendo's, can you please identify this console? Yeah.
Why?
So part of it was to build a case of knowing
what
like
else is out there, basically.
On. Yeah, and experience type stuff.
Okay. It's gonna get messier before it gets better, and
I don't know if there is a getting better in this case.
No,
basically, a lot of the headlines from this are
in one way
everybody's losing, is what this boils down to. There is no winner in this case.
Before it goes away in one way or another, and is more apt.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just, I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Did we want to bring up Chernobyl?
No.
Oh
no, we don't do science.
Google Chernobyl, people, if you if you're worried. Everything's okay though, for now.
Also the fact that I don't know, it's kind of scant stuff, and there wasn't really enough time to review it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that
my
is
Google
gonna...
brought up something about Chernobyl, so see if your Google brings it up too.
Yeah.
Is what we'll go with that.
Also of note, Resident Evil 8 came out this past week.
Yes, it did.
Man, I really overestimate how long Resident Evil games are.
Yeah, Joe's been watching a guy do a playthrough of it all week, and I think he just finished the other night.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was watching it like since release, and that was quite a bit.
Yeah, it seems like the average playthrough that I've seen has been about 9.5 hours. And that's on like standard difficulty. And so now it's there are like achievements for finishing it quicker. So like doing it on like easy mode, you know, in theory you can complete the story in like under 3 hours, which is one of the achievements. That seems mind-boggling to me.
It just doesn't sound enjoyable at that point.
Well, it's finishing it quickly is the point. Or is the enjoyment. Seeing how quick you can finish it is the enjoyment. And essentially speedrunning, yeah.
I just don't understand the idea.
Well,
I understand
it's also,
the premise of
there is a
speedrunning.
new game plus, so it's often you do that once you finish the game and you learn where everything is, and then you do a new game plus where you like speedrun it.
Yeah.
And in prior Resident Evils, you often got quote unquote like good endings if you like did a super fast speed run and like had no save. Like if you did it all in one go without saving and basically did a speed run, you got the best ending. I want to say it was Resident Evil 2 maybe had one that was like if you completed it in an hour and a half and no saves. That was like the best ending.
That just doesn't.
And that was, I don't think that had New Game Plus. Not talking the remake, I'm talking about the original.
Yeah.
So, but obviously, yeah, if you have New Game Plus, you carry over all of your equipment and unlocks and stuff.
Yeah, and that would obviously make it a lot easier.
So that's where, you could finish that game in 3 hours. Talk about 8. You can finish that game from the get-go when you start the game with a grenade launcher. I mean, there you go.
Yeah.
Or, you know, fully upgraded shotgun. I mean, there you go. That's easy peasy lemon greasy. But yeah, so I don't want to spoil anything. That story was tough for me to experience a little bit. So it's a little tough for parents.
I will not be experiencing it in general because I'm just not a Resident Evil fan, but for those that enjoy it.
And it definitely has some twists in there. Some M. Night Shyamalan style twists. So which is a bit unusual for a Resident Evil game. Normally they're not super big on they're normally pretty straightforward.
It's a pretty straightforward formula for Resident Evil games.
Or, you know, they try and do a twist, but like you see it coming from a mile away. So yeah. Yeah, 7 did have a bit of a twist to it as well. And this is basically a direct sequel to 7. So it's with same characters.
Okay.
So yeah. It's just you know, set in Eastern Europe and has vampires and werewolves, and it's basically gothic horror Resident Evil. So yeah.
And big sexy vampire lady.
Yeah.
That's what I know is big sexy vampire lady. That's about all I know.
That does not last long. So.
Yeah.
All right.
But I think that wraps it up for our quickfire news, although it wasn't fully quick this week. What do you say, Sean? We get ready for our deep dive.
Yes. All right. So, I mean, we didn't really have a topic this week for our deep dive that came out of the news.
So Sean decided to do something that we've talked about a few
we're gonna
times
talk about
with
fishing and
different
crafting.
games.
Yeah.
But
Fishing and crafting in games. Just because, I've been playing Stardew Valley on Stardew Sundays. Courtney's a big fan of Stardew Valley and other, crafting games like that. If it weren't for the villagers kind of making note of your absence for Animal Crossing, I'm sure Courtney would be all over Animal Crossing.
I truly would be. I truly would be. But it's also the fact that like I don't usually get to play until like 2 a.m, and it's like by then everybody's asleep.
Yeah.
By then,
I will be right back.
Okay. But I will talk about what I unfortunately do. I have played some Animal Crossing. So, dear listeners, I have played a bit. When I had my new 2DS XL, I did play a bit of Animal Crossing, and I enjoyed so much the fishing aspect of it. I liked that you could kind of generally gauge like little fish and the big fish and like the medium-sized fish, so if you're looking for small fish, like just go to the small shadows. Like I genuinely like that. But I didn't like being called out by my villagers. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's
But we're not talking about that. We're talking specific. So, and we bring this up because we've often joked around on stream or whatever of I have a particular love. So I'm not a big fan of fishing in real life. Just because, so a little bit of backstory. I had to run the fishing program at the scout camp that I used to work at, along with a bunch of my friends. Because somebody thought it was a bright idea to put it under environmental science and ecology instead of field sports,
which is
along with
more
archery and rifle shooting. The bright idea was also to put like a mining trough under my department as well, which but anyway, I cannot express my disdain and disgust for that enough. But just, you kind of lose your interest in it when you see like 20 overly excited middle school age boys flailing fish hooks around wildly because they're too excited to have the coordination to actually cast correctly. And later, since it was done at the campfire ring, one of your friends gets a fish hook caught in his head doing a skit. So yeah, that kind of. So anyway,
yeah.
Now that I've painted you that picture, that said, you don't got to deal with any of that stuff in video games. So, and there's like there's a certain amount of technicality that is always introduced in a fishing minigame. So typically it's choosing a pole, choosing enhancements. So sometimes you get to like augment your pole with different kinds of line or rods, reels, bait and bobbers, different techniques, different locations, and of course different fish. So just to call out a couple different ones, and I'm going to try and pick games that both Courtney and I have played, and to get our
I've played a good amount of other games with
or at
with
least
fishing
ones that
mini games
that we've experienced but may not have necessarily directly played. So like Animal Crossing, for example.
I've experienced.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kind of talk about it. And then, crafting is a whole nother topic, but is usually related to fishing. So,
yeah.
All right. So I while I was away from the computer, I did catch a little bit about Animal Crossing. So why don't we start with that one? So
Yeah.
yeah, the different shadows. Um, so uh, Animal Crossing is definitely they made a lot of quality of life improvements to the fishing. Like the overall base system is the same, but it's just sort of the very minute changes can drastically increase the quality of life for it. Um, where I remember fishing was pretty difficult on the GameCube when it originally came out, just because of the timing that was involved, um, and the very specific requirements to catch certain fish. Um,
Yeah.
so like, uh, if I recall, the coelacanth, for example, the infamous coelacanth, uh, I believe in New Horizons can show up in any season as long as it's raining. And in the original game, it was if I remember correctly, was summer and raining. So like you also had a time limit.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
It's real time too.
yeah,
Another issue with real time games.
yeah. I mean, time travel is also a thing, is also a known thing with Animal Crossing. Uh,
Yeah.
and
The
back in those games, you were actually actively punished for time traveling. Nowadays, it's like stuff just gets borked instead of Mr. Rossetti coming out and yelling at you. Um, but yeah, so I mean, Animal Crossing, has where there's a whole library of fish, or a whole
Mhm.
aquarium of fish, if you will. Um, it's a game where you don't use them for crafting, but you use them for collecting and putting in the museum. Um,
Or just playing in your home.
yeah, or you can add them as decorations, yeah, and they get a little fish tank and stuff. Um, and yeah, so it's you generally have some sort of idea as to what kind of size of fish you're going to fish up because of the shadow. Um,
Yes, which I like.
yeah. And then you can kind of deduce a little bit, or other context clues. So like sharks, for example, will have the fin. Um, in New Horizons, eels will have they'll be long and skinny. Um,
Hmm.
uh, but otherwise, you can kind of deduce it a little bit with like some context clues of like where you might be catching it, because a pond versus a river versus up in the quote unquote mountain, or at the top of a
Hmm.
waterfall, or at the base of a river when it opens up into the ocean itself. Um, in previous games, whether it's on the tropical island or back in your town, um, time of day
Yep.
also plays a factor, and the season, can all help. Kind of figure, like, once all where when things are going to appear, you can deduce like, okay, well, I think it's an Animal Crossing, like sturgeon show up in spring or maybe fall, one of those two, or both possibly. You can say like, okay, so I'm down at the river mouth and I see a big fish down here, and it's it's like midday, and I see and it's like spring or fall or whatever. Might be a sturgeon,
Yeah.
might be a bass, don't know. But or you see, oh, I got the fin. Okay, so it's some kind of shark.
Yeah.
It's raining, and that's a big fish. Fingers crossed. Uh, um. So yeah.
Yeah, being able to have those clues about what you're getting in
Yeah.
some case, like even if it is something like because to you to go from Animal Crossing then to go to something like Stardew that also has time specific
Yes.
date morning, daytime, evening, nights, and depending on where you are at the location, like you can know generally, okay, these are kind of the odds, but you have no kind of indication before you put your rod in the
Right.
water
Yeah.
at what something's going to be. Whereas, but then, and I know that you and I both, I've talked about it when I'm playing and talking to myself, and in Stardew, where it's you have the gauge that goes up and down, and you track the fish, in that mini game, and you can kind of tell by the pattern that that fish makes when
A
reeling it
little bit, yeah.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know this is going to be a lionfish. I know this is going to be a puffer fish. I know this is, this is going everywhere. Okay, we got to try and like keep a hold of this. This is a much rarer fish.
Yeah.
Um,
Before we kind of get into what happens after you hook the fish, we'll say, of just like how you hook the fish is also
mhm,
different from game to game. So you get ones like so Animal Crossing um, is a simpler variety, and you see this in Hades, um, and to a certain extent you kind of see it in Pokemon as well. Although Pokemon's even simpler in that
mhm,
it's kind of a quick time event basically.
mhm.
Is that they'll do nibbles to basically try and bait you into pushing the button early, uh, and then it's waiting for it to give you that exclamation point or that cue um, when it pulls the bobber down, and that's when you hook it. Um, and Stardew does that too. Um,
Mhm.
and in that case, like a lot of the games are similar. Um, then what happens next is for actually catching the fish is you have two schools for games. You have games with simple fishing mechanics and games with complex fishing mechanics.
Mhm.
So games like Animal Crossing, Hades. I'm trying to think of anything else where it's just like you dip it in and you catch the fish. Um,
To a lesser extent, it's kind of a hybrid
there's
with Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Minecraft is another
Hmm.
one where basically like, once you've hooked the fish, like that's it. You get fish.
Hmm.
Uh, Now there's then on the flip side, um, there is where is complex, and from there you can have a mini game, or you can have just mechanics. So mechanics would be things like most 3D Zelda games. Um, Valheim is another example. Um, oh, lost Courtney. Where you are having to do like button presses, holding down buttons, and moving the joystick around to reel in a fish, and you have to
Yeah.
weigh things like line tension and things like that. Um, so we see this in Ocarina of Time. We see this in Twilight Princess. Twilight Princess, by the way, kind of here on the top of a lot of people's lists for like best fishing. Uh, period. Um,
Really?
just because it kind of strikes a balance of like sort of a representation of realistic fishing without getting into a lot of the stuff that bogs like Bass Pro Hunter fishing down, where like it doesn't get too real, and now like you're sitting out there for hours being like, well, this has certainly recreated the real fishing experience where I'm just out here and nothing's biting. Uh,
Like I'm just like having some crackers for a snack, like putting some of my crumbs in the water, hoping it'll.
yeah,
Because that's what I do when I fish for real.
yeah.
Um,
Um,
it's a snack all day.
Now, on the flip side of that is if it opens up a mini game, um, and you basically have a whole another set of mechanics for that. So Stardew Valley is one of these. Um, oh, you know what? I forgot under simple, Harvest Moon 64. Now I can't
Okay.
speak to Story of Seasons and the other Harvest Moon games because I haven't played them. Um, but Harvest Moon 64 had just like bobber goes down, you catch fish. Um, but Stardew Valley has a mini game. Fire Emblem Three Houses has a mini game. Breath of Fire has a fishing mini game. Um, and technically, Pokemon has a fishing minigame. And I
That's
say this
okay.
because it's basically fishing is to proc random encounters of a different variety.
Yes.
Uh, so you know, it's a little bit weird in that it's not like a separate system, but the goal isn't like you catch fish for a different purpose or for crafting or whatever. It's you're catching fish Pokemon to battle and capture and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so for Breath of Fire, which is a JRPG series from the Super NES and PlayStation era. Uh, what it does is, and also Link's Awakening has kind of the same thing. Is puts you in a side scroll view, and it looks basically like a big tank or a big pond that you're looking at from the side, and you see fish are swimming back and forth at various depths, and you are standing at the top, and what you're doing is you're casting into the pool. So again, you're looking at it from the side. So your goal is to like try and get your bait and your bobber and everything to where the fish is and get it down there and make sure that you like catch the right fish and get the right fish interested in the bait and everything. There also might be like treasure at the bottom that you could then hook and like reel back in. Whereas Fire Emblem Three Houses is basically quick time event button presses.
Yes.
I have to, out of all of the minigame based stuff, it's not my favorite. Right? Like for me personally, because I like different mechanics and I like complex mechanics for things. I do like it better than just simple like quick time event you caught a fish. But for me is an interesting little mini game of like where you're essentially doing like a little bit of platform puzzle type stuff, or I mean, I think Stardew for me is the king of fishing mini games, where it's
Stardew took a lot. There is actual with Stardew. I have found that their fishing minigame, it is legitimately a certain skill that you have to attain through multiple trial and fail.
100%, absolutely.
And getting your leveling of fishing up. Because Sean, I think that I remember you saying this when you switched to playing Stardew on your Switch and you started a new farm and you're like, fishing was not this difficult. What is this?
So I think I did. I think I figured it out. Was
In one you switched from one platform to another though. And I remember you saying that
well, I
and I
think
was
the
like,
issue
yeah.
specifically with that ended up being controller lag from distance from the actual unit itself. So that does factor it in. So like if you're playing, if your controller is over a wired connection, it's not as bad. As if you're, say, for me, I was like 12 feet away with a wireless controller. And there was just that little bit of lag input. Because I have noticed that with other games too. It's a slight difference. Which, for most cases, like it wasn't that bad and wasn't that noticeable. But when you're doing a very high precision thing like Stardew's fishing, yeah. Yeah,
And
it
it
can get
definitely
pretty.
has a learning curve and
Oh,
it
for sure.
doesn't get easier until you have gotten your fishing level up. Thankfully, Stardew, I do believe they still give you fishing experience even if you're not fully catching the fish. It goes a lot slower though.
Let
Because
me look that up and verify that. The only
yeah,
reason
let's
why
look
I'm
that one
I'm
up on
looking
the
this
wiki
up.
because I'm not 100% sure, but I know for me it took a very, very long time for me to get used to playing the Stardew fishing minigame, which I now love and I greatly enjoy it. And, I do have, I still can't catch those fish that just immediately start jumping all over um, the bar, but being able to level up gained me the ability to get better fishing supplies being able to get bait, being able to get different tackle so that I could do a better job with my fishing, and the tackle could help to um, mitigate different circumstances, like you get the lead bobber so that it just stops at the bottom
Yep.
instead of like doing the bounce. You do the barbed hook so that it increases the size of the bar that you have to chase the fish in. And like the different tackle though, that doesn't get unlocked until you reach certain levels within that fishing skill. So
yeah,
it's definitely a learned skill though, because once I went and like restarted another farm, because I started on my Switch, and then when I went to actually being playing on my computer on my Steam game, it was like infinitely easier because I knew how to do it already.
Yeah.
And so once you know how to do it, it's not as hard to go back to the beginning with the tiny little green bar and keep the fish in the tiny little green bar.
And definitely for a lot of folks who, you know, they play Stardew Valley as like a game to chill out and everything. For them, it adds a level of stress that they're not looking for. And so they vastly prefer Hades or Animal Crossing in terms of fishing, where the thing that I don't like is it basically reduces it to like a button press. And if you miss the button press, like if you do it slightly too early or slightly too late, like you're done. For me, like I'm not a fan of Hades fishing at all. Like I think far too often I miss it and mistime it. And you know, ultimately like it just gives you a little bit of like extra loot at the end of a run.
Yeah.
Whereas like I'm looking for something a little more substantial. So in most games, like you can cook fish, or you can sell fish in Animal Crossing for usually pretty good money. Or in the case of Stardew Valley, you know, for those that have been watching Stardew Sundays, primary means of income, folks.
And that's the other thing too is the nice thing about
doesn't
Stardew
matter if that's actually not the case.
It is, yes, it takes your energy, but it is a health. Like you will not lose your health. You will not poke yourself with fishing hooks. You will not gain any damage doing that. So there is no risk in like actually passing out due to damage. You might pass out because you get exhausted. But
so every time you cast, regardless of whether you catch a fish or not, you consume energy.
Yes.
Also, so I have the wiki up here, and I have the experience formulae.
Thank you.
So trash, algae, and seaweed caught earn you 3 experience points. Crab pots, doesn't matter what you catch in the crab pot. So it could be
trash.
So according to this, like it could possibly be trash. Gives you 5 experience points. For fish that you catch. So if you do not catch a fish, you do not get experience when fishing. So you have to catch things in order to upgrade your level.
So you have to reel something in.
You got to reel something in.
Okay.
So if you don't like the fishing minigame in Stardew, crab pots would be the best way to do that. Now, the number of experience points you get is 3 plus. I was waiting for a dramatic pause there. So
yeah, I'm like 3. No, you gotta get more for a fish.
3 times the fish's quality. So and that's 0 for normal quality, 1 for silver, 2 for gold, 4 for iridium.
Okay.
So Aaron Engineer asks, just reach level 3 fishing crab pots. You can also get crab pots from the aquarium as one of the things.
Oh, when you're donating.
For the bundle.
Yes, you can get crab pots from when you donate to the museum. Yes.
I think it might be the crab pot bundle, but you can actually catch most of those things. Like, you can actually forage for most of those things on the beach. And other times, like, they might appear elsewhere. For example, like, you can quote unquote catch crabs by going into the cave,
mines.
by going into the mines and fighting cave crawlers or whatever they are.
And the nice thing is the mine, the lava, well, they're not always lava, but the different mine crabs that you find do start at a low enough level, so you're not always, so long as you're, you can figure out which are rocks and which are rock crabs pretty easily, and you can run away from them quite easily in the mines. They don't like jump forward like slimes do or chase after you like bats do. So they are something that if you do want to try and find them in the mine and you're struggling with keeping your health up while you're in the mines, you can just outrun them and get back to the start.
Yeah. All right. So
like,
yeah, so you do. It's
serpents.
A little bit difficult to do it without doing any fishing whatsoever, but I think it might be possible to get crab pots without doing any fishing. Of course, also if you're playing multiplayer, just tell somebody else to go fishing.
I just tell Sean to do it.
Yeah, I mean that's my designation when I do that, because
I do the farming, he does the fishing.
Farming for me is too swingy for income. Like, and it takes so long to unlock animals. Animals then provide you I like constant income. So anyway, all right. So 3 plus 3 times fish quality plus fish difficulty divided by 3. And that last part, so the fish difficulty divided by 3 is in parentheses. Difficulty ranges from 5, which I think is carp, to 110, which I believe is legend, one of the legendary fish. And that then there are modifiers. So if you catch a treasure chest, the end result is multiplied by 2.2. If the catch is perfect, that end result after multiplying in the treasure chest is multiplied by 2.4. And then if it's a legendary fish, you take that total and multiply that by 5.
Yeah.
So if you are some cyborg that is capable of doing perfect button presses and catching legendary fish with a treasure chest, number one, you don't exist. I refute your existence.
Yeah, with a treasure chest.
With a treasure chest, perfect, which means that that legendary fish has to sit on the treasure chest long enough for you to collect it, and then you can't mess up at all. That becomes, basically 2.2 times 2.4 times 5.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. Yeah, I'm not going to do that math in my head. Maybe I'll boot up my Switch and pay the $10 and have my calculator do that.
I was gonna say, that's why I have my phone as a calculator.
No, I mean, I'll do it on my phone real quick. 2 times 2.4 times 5 is a modifier of 26.4. So 26 point. That's a lot of experience points, folks.
Yeah. I mean, granted, it's if you're not worrying about fishing though, and you just want to get crab pots and just do it that way, totally doable. Without that. So.
It does have a note here. The first level of fishing cannot normally be completed with crab pots because the player does not have access to bait until level 2. However, if the player befriends Linus, his 4-heart cutscene will give the recipe for wild bait, which can be used for crab pots at any fishing skill level.
Yep. You just gotta up that friendship with Linus, man.
Also it talks about the crab pot bundle. Completing the bundle without playing the fishing minigame requires 4 fish foraged from the beach. That's a tongue twister. And a crab from the mines.
Yeah. Doable.
Um,
Absolutely doable.
Also, fish ponds give you fishing, apparently. So, yeah. But, I mean, it's this level of complexity. And so, I think just talking about modifiers, because you touched on that a little bit with Stardew Valley, that you can apply to your fishing pole and gear, we'll call it.
Yeah.
So Pokemon just has different rods. Animal Crossing just has different rods. Hades doesn't have anything. It's just you're just able to fish. Excuse me. There are boons that you can get that make fish more likely to appear. It's terrible. Poseidon does it to troll you. Like, it's when you unlock fishing, I believe it's the next run that you get. That's the boon that you get from the start. And it's like, great. Now I have to wait like 3 or 4 rooms in order to actually get something that will help me with my run. So in other games, a lot of MMOs will have a fishing rod and have like equipable stuff and everything. So Warcraft you can get all sorts of buffs. There's like food buffs that augment fishing. There's a hat buff. There's a fishing tournament in game that happens on Sunday afternoons where the prize is gear to augment your fishing rod.
Of course there is.
As well as fishing rods themselves. So different fishing rods give different bonuses to fishing. There in a past expansion, there was an artifact fishing rod that had all sorts of like talents that you could unlock on it. But there's also bait that you can equip that will, augment your fishing skill. Bobbers, which are just cosmetic items, but they augment your bobber. Now there's all that complexity that goes into it, but at the end of the day, Warcraft is still a simple fishing system where it's just the bobber moves, you click on it, you get fish. So Stardew has so you have enchantments, which
Yes,
I've never encountered. Courtney's probably encountered it because she's played through the game oodles and oodles of times.
Well, the enchantments come from the latest 1.5.
Yeah.
And it's a bear to get there.
Yeah.
To be able to get to do your enchantments. So I have done one enchantment. I combined a slime ring with, I want to say the other one that glows and attracts stuff.
The iridium ring.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. I don't want to get too hungry because we are over time. So, but just to get my point across is, so Stardew also has, you can equip tackle, bait, only has 2 kinds of bait. They both do the same thing, basically.
Bait versus no bait.
Yeah. Zelda basically has different kinds of bait, depending on the game. I'm trying to think of what else. Oh, Fire Emblem has different kinds of bait that you can equip that affect what kind of fish appear, or are more likely to appear.
Yeah.
But yeah. So it's just it's usually it can be done as like a whole entirely separate subsystem, and there are even like whole games that are based around this. I mean, Legend of the River King is an RPG that is about fishing, that I have never played, and I lament that. It's an older game, but it was for a while I was planning on for my own game project of putting in a fishing where like it would, like Pokemon would proc a random battle in which you would fight the fish, but it wasn't like fish monsters. It was just like regular fish, and it was, in order to catch them, you would have to have a fishing rod equipped in your weapon slot, and it would have sort of sockets in the weapon, like gems from Diablo, but it would be like bait, hook, and line or something like that, and they would all have different effects. And so essentially what you would do is, while you had a fishing rod equipped, it would replace your attack with like real And so by attacking the enemy, you were just reeling it in, and your goal was to like reel the fish in by reducing its hit points
Yep.
before its stamina, which was, magic points, would run out. Because if its stamina run out, it would just run away, and you would and that's how you would lose the fish.
Which is very realistic.
And there were different techniques that you could do based on what the fish did. It was a little more complicated, and there wasn't a way to figure out, like, because it was for a game in which you have a party of characters. Typically, you don't do multi-person fishing. Valheim is probably the only game in which I'm aware of that you do multi-person fishing. And that's if you're not doing fishing per se, but spearing sea serpents, because you need multiple people to spear a sea serpent and like drag it onto land. So there's that. So yeah, I just, I wanted to talk about fishing in video games because it's a fun topic.
Hey, now, man, that's all. I think it's something that you got to think about, like when you're playing some of these slice of life games. That kind of have you just kind of moving around a little bit more, especially even when newer games that are coming out still, like Valheim, like you having these little mechanics can really make or break something. In regards to, is this aspect of the game enjoyable? Because, like, yes, I like a little bit of a fight with my fish. I'm sorry, I'm used to fighting them. Because I did do a lot of fishing growing up as well. And I still enjoy fishing. I have not had it ruined for me. Hey, no judgment on that one.
It's also attempting to remove a fish hook from a fish is often a very
traumatic.
It can be a traumatic experience, especially if it gets really lodged in there, and which it often does when you have young kids trying to do it. Also, okay, they were hooking everything but fish. Let me be clear on that. It's like one time.
How many lips did you get hooked?
No lips on humans. Somebody hooked a duck once. Turtles would get hooked all the time. Yeah, we had a duck one time. I think the duck got away. I'm pretty sure that we didn't have to like cut the line or anything like that, or whatever, cut the fish. I think the duck managed to extricate itself somehow.
Well, that's good, because getting wild animals taken off a fishing line can get very difficult sometimes.
For sure.
I saw recently a video of a blue heron that got cut up in fishing line or something, and the person had to like hold it by the neck to be like, dude, I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm not trying to hurt you. And then another person was able to, but yeah, I mean, because they get scared. Don't blame them. Humans get scared too when they get hooked by fishing things that they're not supposed to get hooked by.
Yeah. So yeah, but if you have a game, and I'll throw this one out, Aaron Engineer in the chat, Salmon Run for Splatoon, which I've not played it, so I don't know. I mean, I think I'm under the impression that it's more of like you're collecting fish and delivering them. So it's not quite fishing so much as... Now, I could be getting that wrong, and I'm more than willing to admit, because I haven't played the mode. I've only seen like previews of the mode and everything. But it feels more like grabbing fish from point A and delivering them to point B, which is not... I'd consider that more of like a delivery... like a delivery mechanic. But yeah, if you have a game that has really cool fishing mechanics and you want to let us know, you can send us an email. You can send me an email at sean@8bitadventures.com, or you can let us know on social media.
Yeah.
Best place is Facebook, facebook.com/8bitadventurescomic, I believe. I think. But the link is also on our About page here on Twitch. So, you can click that link there and let us know. We'd love to hear what games have your favorite fishing mechanics. We didn't talk about crafting at all, but we are out of time.
As I say, we ran out of time, and I had a feeling when you put fishing and crafting on the show notes, I'm like, we're not going to get time to go to crafting. We'll do crafting next week.
If we don't have next week is going to be Ravenloft, so we won't be able to talk about crafting. Will be the next time we have a sort of lull in topics, because I could talk of cooking and crafting is a whole nother.
No, cooking is its own thing.
No, it's the same thing, Courtney. It's the same thing.
Its own thing.
No, it's cooking is crafting. For most games, there is no difference. It's just a form of crafting. All right, that's it. Let's just run through quest log real quick.
Yes.
Courtney.
Yes.
It says here, you did not complete your goal.
I did not.
Okay.
Life is being difficult for me.
That's okay.
I'm trying. Like I am, for me, like I'm bringing the book into work every night. Like it's sitting in my room, like right now. Like it looks at me and says, "Read me, read me."
Mm-hmm.
But I did finish The Good Place this week. That's a deep cut, man. That's a really deep cut.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
That's you need to be in a healthy headspace when you're going into that. And I knew I was going to be demolished by it, and I was waiting for it. Like this was not a WandaVision circumstance where I was not aware how much this was going to demolish me. I was fully aware. I had my support person. You know, Joe was like, "I'm here if you need to talk about stuff."
Yeah.
So I did.
And
I know I've talked with y'all about my mental health a bit. Like I did protect myself that way. I fully went into it prepared to be destroyed, and I absolutely was.
And if I may interject, awfully timely for you is there is a Dark Lord of Ravenloft who kind of looks like Ted Danson. That's the meme that I see every time like a Ravenloft post pops up with that particular Dark Lord is just photos of Ted Danson everywhere. So I'm gonna say I did 1.5.
Okay.
Where got a comic done. I got a second comic done.
Nice.
I don't recall which Dark Lord it is, Errant Engineer. It's one of them. Unfortunately, the way to answer it, the one that looks like Ted Danson, which I know is not very helpful as an answer, but so did a bunch of Chapter 1 comics. I didn't make a TikTok video. It's hard. It's hard trying to come up with a script, which you really need to do if you want to do a successful TikTok video, or you have to have events that are just funny that happen, and you have to happen to have your phone out and recording, or you just have to be like on the ball like that, coming up with stuff. And I'm not that, at least not right now. And so the one half is the finishing the Cosdal section for Jamora. So I am mostly done. I just have a couple paragraphs that I need to throw stuff into. And then that kind of finishes up the Realm section.
Nice.
And then it's just like adding bits here and there, but the bones of the book would pretty much be done. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I mean, a big thing is like trying to come up with an adventure, which I may enlist help, like commission some help to do. Just because I'm not a great writer. I don't plan adventures very much, like not to the degree that they appear in a book. So, yeah, I don't know, may or may not seem that way, but yeah, I kind of just like am like, here's an overview of what I want to do. Here are some monsters that they can expect to meet up with, maybe. And then we'll play it by ear and see what happens and how it goes, because very rarely,
because who knows what we're gonna do, to be honest.
very rarely does anything go how I envision it would, and it often goes in extraordinarily catastrophic circumstances. Or methods, rather. Yeah. So, yeah. But, yeah, Cosdal section almost done. So, yeah. I did do a whole bunch of, like, icons. I know that was on my quest log list for a while, and then I eventually took it off because it was just getting, like... There was a lot of things being added to it. But doing just, like, a bunch of ore nugget icons, which were basically just palette swaps, but, you know, I'm going to count it. Of doing iron, orichalcum, mithril, and adamantine.
Nice.
Classics.
Yep.
But doing my own little twist. So, like, mithril has a little bit of a blue, like a silvery blue tint to it. Adamantine has a slightly greenish tint to it. Orichalcum taking inspiration from 4th edition D&D, where it's sort of like a coppery gold.
Ooh.
So kind of more like a reddish copper type color, but just has like gold reflection on it. So, yeah, very basic. So 1.5 out of 3. So about halfway. So I will one of these days make that second TikTok video of something. I don't know. We'll figure it out. That, folks, is going to wrap things up for this week. Thank you all for joining us. If you want to see more content from 8-Bit Adventures, be sure to check out 8-bitadventures.com. I'm going to type that here in the chat. Over there, you can find artwork, podcasts, streams, comics, and more. All right there on the website. If you want to help support that content, you can either subscribe right here on Twitch, or you can become a patron at patreon.com/8bitadventures. Patrons get early access to comics, behind-the-scenes content, as well as playtest material for Jamora. That is available for $2 patrons and up, but everything else is available for all patrons, including a discount on merch, if I have remembered to update the discount code, which I never remember if I have or not. But that is in there. And then finally, our opening theme is One Up by Professor Shy Guy. You can find his work over at professorshyguy.bandcamp.com. And with that, that wraps up our episode for this evening. So again, thank you all for joining us. Thank you for your support. Big shout out and thank you to all of the patrons and subscribers. So especially during this period of time. So
it's appreciated.
It very appreciated. Yes.
Yeah.
I cannot say for certain if there will be streams this weekend. I'm getting my second COVID vaccine. I have no idea how I will end up after that, as it's happening Saturday morning. So that puts the streams right in the timetable of when it would be prime time for feeling like death. Yeah. So
likely,
I don't know.
You might feel okay on Saturday night, but Sunday we might not get a Stardew Sunday. We'll probably not get a Stardew Sunday.
It's too difficult to tell. So there might not be streams. There also might not be a comic next week. So, with that, as always, have fun, everyone. Happy gaming, and enjoy your pie cake.
Bye, everybody.